She'll tell you everything that's important.
That's not true. I will do my best to do that. First and foremost, Lewis and myself are here in our own capacity as board members. We are not representing Onslow County Board of Education as a whole. We have to be very clear in stating that when we share anywhere. My understanding is we were here tonight because you're having some issues getting into some of the schools, but that's not the case across the board. I have looked at the policy because I think Rob brought it to me at some point. And the policy, if I remember correctly, basically states it should be given equal time to all clubs. It doesn't state a time or that the principal has to. So that could be no time to nobody or lots of time to all the parties of our. My interpretation is that we would probably have to revisit it as a policy committee and go back in. We oversee the superintendent, but we can't actually go in and participate in any of the functions, the everyday functions that, so whether they're holding each principal to the same standard, like we have to do this at every school, or they're just letting every principal determine how much participation they want to have from clubs inside their school. I think I'll let Lewis talk a little bit on the legislation part, because basically the policies are supposed to be written based off the legislation at the state level.
Okay, so I want to first start by saying I used to be one of those people that says, how come politicians only come out during election season? And I still say that sometimes. Some politicians get paid significantly large sums of money to do what they do. We're actually the lowest paid position as an elected official in the county and the state.
Elected.
No, local government. And well, I will say this, the lowest paid with the largest budget. There's a lot of work that goes into this, and before we came here today, we were working our day jobs, and one of the things that we try to do is have diversity on the board, right? We try to have, it's good to have retirees, it's good to have people that are working day to day, but the ones that are working day to day, it's very challenging, and that's one of the reasons why it is hard to come out throughout the year. But I say all that because to piggyback off of what Angie just said is, there has to be more representation of organizations like yours within the county. I'm not sure if anyone shares what I'm about to say as far as the feeling that I have, but organizations like this one, you guys do a very good service for our kids. And as a school district, I want the school district to teach kids how to add, subtract, multiply, teach them about history, teach them how to write a piece of paper, a paper. But as far as how to build them up socially and economically, we do have classes for that. But the majority of that should come from organizations like yours. It should come from organizations like the YMCA. It should come from organizations like the Boys and Girls Brigade. There are plenty of kids in this community that every organization can be full of. And as Angie was saying about having an opportunity to speak or have your voice, or even for the school system to promote organizations like yours, which we are allowed to do, there needs to be things put in place to make that happen. And one of the things I'd like to see, and I'm gonna advocate for this along with Angie, are the community advisory committees, community advisory councils. Organizations such as yourself, such as YMCA, and all of them across the county, they have a seat at the table when it comes down to us writing legislation, or at least just to know when we're writing it, to know what what's coming down the pipeline. It's very difficult to speak to every single organization that is separate throughout the county. But if there is a community advisory council, there is a seat at the table. So rather than going back and forth about, do you guys have a voice at this meeting, or are you going to be fairly represented at this school? It's ideal to cut out the middleman and then create an advisory council where you guys just have a seat at the table. So while we figure out the best practice ways to have you guys have a voice within our school systems. One of the things that we are going to work on is formulating a community advisory council. I keep going back and forth between committee and council, but it's essentially a council. And the reason why that's important is because it's actually for the district. Then it just branches down from school to school. But you guys have a say. I would really like to see this organization be promoted, like many of the other organizations within our community. So that's what we're working on now. And it's not based off of an opinion. This is actually off of our general statute 115C-46. We're obligated as a school district to promote organizations such as this one. So that's where our trajectory is at this point.
The policy, as I read it, said they are supposed to be working with organizations like Scouts, YMCA, but not limited to just those.
Right.
But it also said that Scouting is partnered with the school district, and they should be allowed to do whatever as far as the advertising of events and recruiting type stuff. One of the lines that I caught in the policy that really caught my eye was the part that said they cannot be denied. And that's where, I guess, where we have our inconsistencies.
Well, and if that's the case as it is, if that's how it reads in the policy, that would go back to the policy being rewritten. And then, so that policy committee would take the policy, reword it so that it's more user-friendly, I guess, for each public school unit. The next step from that is having the whole board vote to change the policy. So if there's...
And are you're mentioning the general statute?
Let's see which one it is.
Sure. I just making it clear, because if you're saying general statute, she's talking about making our district, our local policy reflect that of general statute.
It was our local policy that I was reading.
Okay, all right. So I want to say another aspect of this is the school improvement plans. So within our general statute, we're also advised to formulate a community. Let me just say this right. School improvement plans and teams. And what that is everyone knows that we unfortunately had a fatality on our campus last year. Well, geez, is that 2 years now?
It'll be 2 years in August.
2 years in August. When there's an incident like that, there's improvement teams that are to be established, which we've not done that yet here in Onslow County. But ideally, what happens is there's a strategic effort to involve the community in making these plans. Now, obviously, some organizations aren't going to be privy to the security side of that, but as far as improving the infrastructure of our school, some of the processes, where our students go after school, some things like that, those improvement plans, those improvement teams, heads of organizations like yours can be on that as well. My goal, or our goal, and I believe, and I can't speak for the rest of the board, there is contention on our board, unfortunately, but I think overall, we do want to see every opportunity for these kids to thrive. By any resource that they have, we do want to see that. So we just disagree on the ways to get there. However, we agree that kids are best served when the community steps in and the school steps back. So as we look at the school improvement plans and teams that we can develop, you guys would be a part of that. There should never be a time, and this is my opinion, there should never be a time where we're creating something that's so robust, so big, and so impactful on the community without the community being part of it. Yeah.
We'll open up the floor.
Yeah, two-parter. So as you're talking about the Community Advisory Council, do you guys have a goalpost in mind as far as when you hope to see this come to fruition? And once it does come to fruition, how is that going to be socialized for individuals to be able to become part of that particular council?
We have a school board meeting tomorrow. I am going to make a recommendation tomorrow at the school board meeting. One of the things that I would also recommend is we sit inside the school board meetings they're a little tough sometimes, and I can only imagine how tough it could be for a community member that just got off of work or just doesn't want to be around that. But you guys have no idea how strong your voices are. You have no idea how strong they are. The accountability aspect of you guys showing up, whether it be as a troop or if it's as parents or grandparents, your voices are loud. The recommendation will be made tomorrow, and I've kind of hinted at it with the board chairman. Once that happens, we have to determine how it'll function. So even in our general statute, it cites the creation of the council. Then in a separate statute, it articulates how the council will be put together, and that's going to be something that we have to work on.
Last year, there was quite a few Eagle Scouts, 3 of them that were not able to wear their cords for their graduation. Now, I was very heartbroken hearing that school would not allow it because it was not part of the school.
It was the
He's
principal,
got-
that was actually my son and 2 of our other scouts. Historically, the school has always allowed the scouts to wear their cords. And we have in the last, well, I guess that's 5 years, but in the last 4 years, those same boys had 3 different principals. The last principal banned them. No reason, we just told them that they were no longer allowed, but then whenever they asked more about it, they were told because it was too close to the Honor Society cords. They went and talked to that teacher.
Yeah.
That teacher said that she did not have a problem with it, went back to the principal, and then he came up with that it was an outside school activity and they were only recognizing the activities at the school. I think one of the boys, a lot of their heartache was that that school also is the recipient of several Eagle projects throughout the years. So as a school, they were okay to receive projects, money, not necessarily money, but projects to benefit the school, to
Still
benefit
charity.
their activities. But then whenever it was time to, and it wouldn't have mattered for them to wear the cords. And I actually reached out, my son also reached out to every member on the school board, the superintendent, reached out to his congressman, and it went nowhere. They were still denied. So, but that's, again, that goes to, even with scouts being allowed to go in to the schools to recruit, one principal can be allowed with it, but the next principal can't. It's not across the board. It's to the interpretation of that principal. And that's the same with these scouts wearing these cords, which I think out of that, Jacksonville High School, which is in history has not allowed their scouts to wear their cords. The Eagle Scout last year was able to wear his cords because I don't know if they didn't. My son and his friends also went to the media and contacted the media about it. It was just something that they were very passionate about, that they could have been out running the streets and doing God knows what, but instead they volunteer at food banks, they volunteer at soup kitchens, they do road cleanups, they do Eagle Project. They're out in the community trying to put a positive role out there, be a positive role model, and the school wants them to be well-rounded, but only how they want them to fit.
You know, you have to add, thanks for saying that. I do recall getting the email. We get a lot of emails, and you know what, it was pretty discouraging to hear that. Then we had a series of other incidents immediately after, but if you, just to put into some kind of detail of how important it is to wear that, it not only reflects on his achievements, but another kid could say, what is that? And then if you answer that question, they're like, how do I do that? So no, the importance of him wearing that is, it's great, it's highly significant. If you don't mind me asking, what, and again, we have to make it clear that we're not here to make any decisions right now. We're legally not allowed to make any decisions, but we can definitely take some of the inquiries back to the board and then discuss it with them. Which school was that?
Dixon High School.
Okay. So the inquiries, and you said there was another one, Jacksonville?
Jacksonville High School, they actually
Okay.
last year allowed them, which before, from my understanding, they never allowed it, but I don't know if it's because this group of 3 decided that they do have a voice. They were gonna push to try to make that change. It of course didn't happen for them.
Okay.
But they were gonna try.
Okay.
And so,
Swansboro High School is another one of those that wouldn't let them wear their cord.
No, we
No,
wore our
they
course.
weren't.
They gave a round of applause to all the kids. There was 5 of my daughters graduating. Yes, they
Okay.
did, and we've done a lot of projects, so if my daughter or any of my kids will walk across with that cord.
well, I think
There's
I learned
not a
from that.
person.
What we
who's gonna
learned
stop
from
it.
that is
that's my
to do and then ask for forgiveness.
That's what I,
That's
forgiveness.
our scouts, we raise them to respect authority,
That's right.
respect. And whenever they went over the cords that were allowed at graduation, they both were like, wait a minute, let's go ask for permission.
Right.
And
Swansboro would let theirs, and then, the board used to do in 17, my older one, and 2 and 3 of their friends, the board had them down to, the billboard, the school board, and they had like, from Onslow County, there's like 6 or 7 of them, and they all got their picture, and they got it in the newspaper, and they thought that
you
was.
still
the
find
coolest
them
thing.
online.
Good.
And then, right after that, it slowed down. That might have been more internal stuff going, and just, you know, how you have to go, but that was one since we're back on, getting back, moving forward,
Yeah.
it highlights something. I mean,
Is there
put
anyone
on-
over there? Questions? You guys had some? You would be quiet now. Peggy?
What is the best way for us to get into the classrooms, especially in the elementary schools, to promote, Cub Scouting? Since I know before COVID, I went with, our district executive to about 90% of the schools here in Onslow County and did a presentation in the classroom. Since COVID, we are not allowed to do that.
Changing principle.
So how do we get back to something like that?
It's, I may add to that, it's kind of, if I can count, I think it was 5 elementary schools that restricted access, of them last year. 3 allowed us to drop off flyers, and 2 did not even want to let us drop off an info flyer for kids to know to come to a meeting. There is a policy in place at the school board. I was originally told the wrong one, and I follow it now to the letter, but the sad thing is that it costs money for us to drop off flyers, because now we have to send them through Peach Jar for official approval, and that money literally comes straight out of our scouts.
Does anybody know where Peach Jar is?
No.
It's an annoying app.
So
Yeah, you know,
I would rather, as a
Yeah.
parent, I would rather get the paper flyers and have them in my hand than get an email that I can just scroll right on by and not even pay any attention.
And as happened, we had 2 units that requested flyers go out at the same time, and the school district sent them to the wrong schools. So the parents need to get the appropriate information. So we paid for the program, the money comes out of our budget to spend on our kids and the youth in the community. And then we, they didn't go very well. So, yeah.
yeah, I'll give anyone a buffalo nickel if you could find Peach Jar on our website.
You can't.
It is one of the hardest things to find.
It only comes through, it comes directly from the school.
Yeah.
It's only for
Well,
that
well, no,
particular
if
school.
I'm talking about for the parents,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
It's one of the hardest things to find, and I'm sorry you guys experienced that. That's something that I just heard about Peach Jar last year. Were you there at that meeting?
No, but I just heard you guys talking about it the
Yeah.
last couple weeks about something.
I was informed it's been the policy since 2017, and then some schools let us in, pay on it, but that's $20 a school, count every school in this county. And if I'm trying to drop flyers off for all of our youth, that's money twice a year that comes out of the money that we can put towards programs for these kids. Because that's just, I have to go ask the office, and then that's money we have to pull.
To be honest, there's a lot of events that come out through Peach Jar that by the time the parents see the emails, it's passed. And it's too late.
You know, one of the things I've heard a lot that really just gets under my skin is, well, what else do we have to do for them? We list it for them and we advertise it on our websites. What else? We can't do it for them. That is and this is my opinion, that is the laziest way of thinking. I have no idea what you guys do for a living, no. Some may be retired, some may work a 9 to 5, but it is not your responsibility to find information. It is our responsibility to provide it and make it accessible for you guys. And when I heard about Peach Jar last year, when they were showing me Peach Jar, they had trouble finding it. So that would be one of those things where it's going to come up in a discussion, and that's not just because you're telling me. It's something that at least I can only speak for myself, is what I witnessed last year.
Kevin Hacker, the biggest seven. I'm a simple-minded person.
Sure.
I'm not tech savvy. Wouldn't it be a whole lot easier just to leave Peach Jar, have Onslow County school announcements, and it goes right in there? A simple, very simple process. I'm a person like those Marines. Let's hand the kids the thing, they bring them home, the parents pick them up, and the kid looks at it and says, hey, I want to do this, Mom. Here, because if the kid gets excited, that's going to have the parents look at it. Whereas if it's on the website, well, the kid don't look at the website. He's not going to get, he or she is not going to get excited about it. So, how do you got to get the kid excited to get the parents to do something. If the kid's not excited about it, the parents are not, the parents are going to look at it, I don't want to do that. But if the kid's excited, and says, Mom, I really want to do this, or Dad, I want to do this, this is how it's going to work. I mean, I started, so many people have been in there long enough. I started 17 years ago with my grandson, and he was given a flyer. He brought it home and said, Mom, I like to do this. Well, he was living with me at the time. My daughter said, Dad, it's all you. We went to a meeting. I became a leader. And here I am, 7 years later. Both my grandsons graduated, both of them Eagle Scouts, one's in the Marine Corps, one works for Onslow County Schools as a plumber, and I'm still here. Okay? But it was something that they had physically in their hand that got them excited about doing it, that caught their interest. Not an egg on email, not anything on this, all this tech savvy stuff. It was something in their hand they brought home and said, I want to do this.
That's why I guess technology back into the classroom and do a presentation. It was only a 5-minute presentation. How many like to go camping? How many like to go fishing? You know?
The way it's written, it's up to the principals of each school if they're going to allow organizations or not.
But
If they allow organizations.
phrasing off of what he just said, they cannot deny you, according to the statute, they cannot deny you. So, I'm the type of person, I will challenge you. You give me that statute, I'll walk into the principal and say, hold on a second, you can't deny me. I get to come to school. You may get to pick the time, but I get to come into
Well, I
school.
think that's kind of what they're talking about too. Tomorrow we have the school board meeting, and there's nothing more powerful
Yeah,
than
but what I'm saying is,
the
I'm the person that would walk in there when I'm going to school, and I have that statute in hand, 'cause I've done it for Marine Corps many times. When somebody says, oh, Marine Corps, oh, really? Yep. Well, here's the Marine Corps. That's false. Because I will challenge you in a heartbeat. I'm that kind of person.
Well, the question is, after you challenge us, what happens next, right? Because you can challenge
They
us all
direct you to
day.
the school board.
Right.
If
They direct you to Peach Jar. You gotta
Yeah,
go there.
I know.
I just
Well,
have one thing.
well, let me say something about that real quick, because this is where a lot of people stop. It's when you challenge us, what happens next?
You get defensive.
Well, you see that a lot, right?
Yeah.
Which is why hardly anybody comes to the meetings.
Right.
But when you challenge us, the question is what happens next? And that's why I say your voices are, they mean a lot. Because one person coming down here saying, no, this is in general statute, you guys are required to do this. If we say, okay, we'll look into it, what happens next? However, if the community says, look, our kids need something, and they go out and they speak out, that is called holding your elected officials accountable. And that's what needs to happen. I mean, I could understand if I was asking for someone to make a political stance, or if Angie was asking for someone to take a side. We're not. We're asking for the school system to take a large role in at least promoting local organizations that support our kids.
Right, and whether our flyer, whether it be a scouting flyer, whether it be a YMCA flyer, whether it be the Girl Scouts, whatever flyer it is in the community that's going to help out our children to grow physically, support the community, services to the community, and be part and good citizens of the community. There's a lot of organizations out there, like we had spoke about before, that does that. But if we, as all these different organizations, not allowed to pass out a flyer to get the kids involved, where do we go?
Hey, I know. Could we get the school board to drop a $2 million donation for scouts like they do for a pool?
It would have to be for a facility, but yes.
We can definitely say
The question to ask is on the committee is, and.
Wait, hold on a second. I'm an elected official, so I can't say yes. I'll just say, oh, we'll look into that.
I was like, Lewis.
Man.
Committee is that you ask back to these principals, because they will not be denied the awards that they want to wear. There's nobody who can tell me to take off the awards I won, and neither can a principal. And that is point. The next point is on these principals, is to ask them, and then if you need to, you can come back, because you can probably tell you every one of the schools in this area, to include the base, and go on cover theirs too, is the amount of projects we've done for them that are Eagle projects, and we need this, and can we do this? And they got the materials, and we were out there on Saturdays putting in bridges, picnic tables, and that's just major stuff. So they might want to ask on who's that, because, you know, those will be the questions on to take care of our kids and to get us thinking.
I think in my opinion,
we got bandstands, dressing rooms.
So I did, and to your point, I'm gonna respond to both, but to your point, the pool. I got a lot of flack, we got a lot of flack for voting for that pool. However, let's put this in perspective. I had no idea I was gonna talk about this today, by the way, but I wrote it down today. What does it say right there?
the pool.
The pool. I wrote it down today. 115C-47, powers and duties generally, subsection D, subsection 7, D7. We're supposed to be funding organizations like yours. We have the funds. We're supposed to. I remember someone saying, your school system, why are you paying for a pool? And I'm like, well, it's actually in our general statute. It's actually in our board policy to fund organizations so long as you guys are helping the kids in our community. It's supposed to be commonplace. It shouldn't be a thing where we fund the pool and you guys are like, what the heck are you guys doing? It should be so common. It's like, all right, guys, let's get a plan together so we can fund something else.
Interesting. Very interesting. We use it for scouts?
Well, I can't speak on that because that would be a YMCA thing, but I would imagine in their mission statement, they're talking about working
with us in their higher state.
yeah, they speak about using it with other organizations. So I would imagine so, but if you guys have a good idea, you package that idea, take it to the school system, and I mean, it's supposed to be a common thing.
What I'm getting at is getting back into those elementary classrooms so that we can get the kids excited.
Yeah.
Give them a piece of paper that they can take home and say, Mom, I want to do this, Dad, I want to do this, you know? Because that's how we recruited and it worked in the past.
I think this is gonna be
The thing that we're doing now with all of this electronic stuff, you're getting the parents, but you're not getting the kids because the kids aren't seeing it because it's only being said to the parents.
It's not helping your visual kinesthetic learners, because that's the whole point of the presentation of the classroom, is that we're getting the kids raising their hands and talking, we're going over, we give them something to take home, and that helps with your auditory, visual, and kinesthetic learners to engage them in all aspects of that. there's a lack of access, and right now lack of access is our biggest issue. So, we don't want any kid in this county to not be able to be in these programs because of access, and that has been our biggest thing this year.
Well, I think in my opinion, the first thing is these conversations that we're having right now. Because I think that Mr. Rogers and myself have been, our priority has been to get out in the community and have conversations, where that's not always been the case with other board members in the past. So we are trying to have the conversations, and I agree with you. As a parent, I have children that are 30 years old, I have a 16-year-old, and I have grandkids. I'm shocked at the lack of the community being involved. I mean, even just a parent trying to go in and have lunch. I think that was one of the things the reasons I decided to run, because I was trying to understand where did things,
Because of COVID.
All because of COVID.
I know, but they blame it on that, but COVID's not here, I mean, COVID is here, but
COVID's over. It's over.
everybody has a different perspective on it. I don't want to be disrespectful of anybody's belief in that, but to stand there and tell somebody they can't be part of their family, I'm pretty sure there's legislation too that you're supposed to be given 4 hours off of work every week to participate in school
Wow.
as a parent. So why isn't that? I mean,
If you know where that is, yeah, please send it to me.
we're in a transition period, in my opinion, on the board, because you're getting parents on the board that have a different perspective than what's been on the board prior to. And so we're getting in there and we're trying to establish a mutual respect with the educators, that as parents, we do have a seat at the table. And we may not be educated at the same level they are, but that doesn't mean our opinions don't matter. And it doesn't mean that the parents in the community shouldn't have their place at the table, which I think is what Mr. Rogers was touching on with these community advisory committees that we're pushing to start. So
When is the next open school board meeting?
tomorrow night.
Yeah, it's tomorrow night. I want to just make a mention. You said, where's the policy? The same policy she just mentioned. It's actually General Statute 115C 35, Article 5, and it's actually going to be subsection 54, increase parental involvement. Increase or improve school communication, offer increased opportunity for parents to be involved. I didn't make that up. That's actually in our general statute.
That's why they have Peach Jam, but Peach Jam doesn't do that.
Oh, yeah. The goal is to get rid of that. Yeah. But-
I'm trying to let people understand that we're trying to go through these policies and statutes, and this isn't something that was in part of our everyday, life prior to getting on the board. So it's a learning process for us too. But as you bring things to us, then we start realizing there's a problem, and that's when we can try to address it at our level.
Yeah. Now,
push it
and the
back
way
out.
that it works is like talking to you, right? Peach jar does not work, right? We collectively agree. If we were to take that to the board and say peach jar doesn't work, there's 2 board members saying that. Now, there's someone at the district level that may believe that it works. If they're able to convince the rest of the board that it does work, now we have 5 board members that are going to say, no, I think it works, and we get crushed as soon as we try to make a vote for that. However, if there's parents in the community saying, hey, look, this does not work. Well, it's not just us. It's not our opinion. You're hearing it from the community. And then, however, the board, and when I say the board, that's even us, because if the board makes a decision, even if it's something we disagree with, we're responsible for it too. Depending on how the board responds, they're to be held accountable by you guys.
And how do we get our points across to the board?
Go tomorrow. I would definitely recommend.
But you gotta show up 30 minutes early to put your name down at top,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you come in a group, but you don't talk on the same aspect, everybody has a different thing, a topic. Say, somebody wants to talk about peach jar, and then you want to talk about how do I get back into schools, and then somebody else wants to touch on something else,
Yeah.
and make it kind of a coordinated.
Discussion. Discussion.
But if we have 5 board members and 3 of them say peach jar works and only 2 say no,
Then you show up the next meeting.
okay, wait a minute, let me finish.
True.
As usual.
I'm timing you.
Okay.
March 5th.
March 5th.
March 5th.
There's an election.
Got it.
There's an election. You know, I told somebody a couple of weeks ago, I said, if I get voted out of office, I'll just see you at the grocery store. I mean, if the community doesn't want us, then we're not there. It's probably because we're doing something wrong. You know, politicians, and I'm not just speaking for local politicians, they fight so hard to stay in office. It's less of a hard fight if they just listen to the community. So to answer your question, if you guys show up and you say Peace Jar doesn't work, we have a responsibility to answer that. And luckily for us, we vote publicly, and you'll know who votes.
You can also reach out to other organizations and see if they're having the same trouble you are. And then maybe work collectively on that end of it.
I can tell you that they are because I know having, my youngest is in ninth grade, is a 9-year-old, he's in 4th grade. My oldest is a sophomore in high school. Peach Jar came out when my oldest was in elementary school, and since then, it's been less and less and less and less and less and less. I think I may get 1, maybe 2 Peach Jars for organizations outside of the schools, like the I-9. They are the big ones. That's the only thing I get through for Peach Jar is the I-9 sports complex people. There's hardly anything for the YMCA or the Boys and Girls Club. There's nothing for Girl Scouts. There's nothing for Boy Scouts, except for the last one you just sent out. It's pretty much the I-9 sports that comes out. And then once summer comes, that's when the Boys and Girls Club will send one out, and that's it. So those are like the only 2 main organizations that I see out of the, 9 months that my kids are in school.
I'm involved with a couple of other organizations, and one of them is the American Legion. We have an oratorical contest that we take to each and every one of the high schools in Onslow County, and I know there's 12 of them, because I've done the delivery. And I have yet, in 8 years of working with this contest, have had a contestant from any of the schools. Last year was the first time I had one from Swansboro.
That's something we're gonna have to work on. That's some things that we need to do too, as what we do. I've got some plans of things of what I'm working on, trying to help build this community as far as our kids go for their education and really set the standards that, I mean, let's face it, we've got the best character building program there is, bar none. I mean, nobody does what we do with kids as well as we do it with kids. We presidents, astronauts, you name it. All at the top of the list are all scouts. So, if there's no more questions,
I'll say this last thing, because I'm a space nerd. STEM, right?
Yes.
Okay, Elon Musk is creating a program that should be active within the next 10 years. There's kids in our county that can be part of this project. I don't know if you guys remember, we just landed on Mars. We sent this rover on Mars last year, I think it was last year. That rover is collecting samples right now, and they have no way of getting it back to Earth because the program is going to be started for kids in this generation to create the device to go get it. I mean, it's like, come on, guys. This is the stuff that we should be striving for.
Yep.
Obviously, Mars is just a little, that's like extra credit. Everything else is here. But it just shows how involved you guys are and what can happen just by having you guys involved. Yeah.
And I hope that we started a conversation tonight. It's not gonna be, we're not gonna have an answer tomorrow. It's gonna be a work in progress, but I think kind of when we had the town hall last month, we kind of left it at, okay, well, you do some brainstorming, maybe reach out in the community, decide what you wanna do as a group, or collectively with other groups to see this come to fruition, and then we revisit it in a couple months and we sit down and see, you know, after we look at policies and legislation, and we'll have the conversation about the coalition, and maybe things will be, we can start getting the wheels turning for, I think you said your recruiting starts in September, is that what I heard?
well, it's all year, but
Well,
when
I
school
mean,
starts
you're
again, kind of
heavy
everybody graduates
start.
to a new level and.
So maybe we can be at a different spot
Yeah.
in September.
Yeah.
I mean, at least get
Hopefully.
you in somehow, but, I mean, like I said, we have to
We
do
look
that
forward
as
to
a
hearing from you
board.
again, so.
But thanks for
appreciate
having
it.
us come in
Thank you.
tonight.
Thank you.